Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, yes, we are looking ahead. I mean, you heard Dr. Yarino speak about those who he thinks will determine what happens in 2023. Well, we're taking it a step further and in a manner of speaking, looking at the bigger picture, which would include the contestations within the political parties and how possibly it will probably play out. Professor Femi Otubanjo joins us this morning. He is a public policy analyst. Good morning, Prof. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning.
Good to see you again after all. Right.
Yes.
Well, I'm sure you've been keeping tabs on what has been happening. Almost interesting developments across board from INEC, how the registration has gone through. Remember, they had this online bit. Lots of people got in there. Then they have new data concerning those who have just newly registered, who are buzzing. Yes. The elections in Ekiti, Osun, Anambra also held. They tried to deploy that system, which they say they will deploy nationally in 2023. We'll come to that as well. But then the politicians themselves, I guess one can say, they're doing what they usually do, politicking. So from what you see, how should we even relate with this? People seem bothered about it. People, of course, they pitch their tent whichever way. But looking at it from a distance, perhaps from your perspective, what do you see? How do you see this playing out?
I see optimism. I see hope.
On the part of?
In the general political environment. The environment.
Okay.
I want you to understand that in the previous 3 presidential elections, we were almost in a pre-war situation. There was so much stress. There was so much threat of violence. But today, things are different. Things are calmer. The party conventions, the national party conventions, were democratic. They were devoid of any of chaos. Now, there's nobody is talking about war, threats of war if we don't win. When in 2011, people actually rioted after the election because the tension had already been built into it. In 2015, in fact, it was like if we don't win, there will be bloodshed. So 2019, it was the same thing. There was desperation in the system. There was some kind of desperation on the part of the candidates that were the major candidates. But today, that's not there. We have a calm environment that we are going to have elections. Okay. But more interestingly, we have a third force for the first time, a credible third force.
In fact, I was going to say that. Yeah. When you say today it appears calm, could that be largely or partly owing to what you just spoke about, the third force? Because almost every region, I mean, if you have some leading candidates, if I could describe them as that, looking at the figures and the way people speak about them, if you have 4 parties, maybe like, say, the NNPP, Labour Party, APC, PDP, you have different groups from different parts of the country who seem to see some rallying figure. So could that be part of the reason why it has come?
Obviously, that's one of the reasons. You know, it's not a one reason, one factor situation. But the fact that first the APC considered its candidacy to the south already removed a major element of tension. The PDP, in spite of disagreement which persists, still conducted because of the experience in doing so, a very credible convention. And so the 2 candidates have emerged. Fortunately, the 2 candidates have not shown that level of desperation we had in 2019, 2015, 2011.
There's a reason.
They have been in the field. They are veterans.
Some say because they're friends.
They are friends also. So, and where we find ourselves is head or tail you win, because it's government of the rich for the rich.
Well, it sounds like you're saying that there is no difference between the 2 leading parties.
No, there's no difference, of course. I'm like to tell you that. I mean, look at where Atiku is coming from. Atiku was PDP, APC, AC, now PDP.
What about the other 2? The other 2?
And, well, of course, we know Obi, Abga, PDP, Labour. Is there any difference? You think that if there's a difference, people can change so dramatically? No,
Okay.
we don't have strict ideological parties. What we have are collections and clubs for winning elections and power.
We'll come to that because I think that's very, very important,
It's very important, yes.
especially talking about the internal politics and
Yes.
all. But to the dynamics that you spoke about the
Yeah.
other time of, how the elections are, building up and the rest of it.
Yes.
How significant is the voting population that has increased by, I think, 12 million according to INEC?
Yes.
How significant is that in the build up to these elections?
No, but voting populations have always grown. It's a demographic reality. Populations grow every 4 years, so it doesn't matter whether it's 6 million or 12 million. I don't think that's a factor in the calmness and the pre-election stability that we have today.
So you don't see that playing any significant role in the impact of the elections or how people will respond?
No, it does play. I'm not dismissing it.
Okay.
But everything is always multifactorial. It's not one issue that will determine. I am very sure that first, the president is not returning. So there's no desperation for him to want to muzzle, Then secondly, very critically, the APC was able to agree to shift power to the south. If that had not happened, we will not be where we are today. And so there are many factors that contributed to stabilizing the polity.
This calmness that you talk about,
Yes.
do you see it reflecting in the voter turnout? Because what we have seen over the years,
Yes.
just as you have said, voter register increases every 4 years.
Yes.
However, the
Turnout.
percentage of turnout decreases even with the increase.
Yes.
So do you see this calmness
Yes.
playing out in the turnout of
It
voters?
should be. I'm not in the business of soothsaying. It should be. It should increase it, because if people are not be scared of the voting booths, they should be able to come out. But one critical point, which I think you are driving at, is the digital factor,
The demographic of the
mobilization-
voters.
the mobilization that has taken place among young people. Just as people used the internet to mobilize revolutions in the Arab Spring, we're beginning to see that here, that the young people are mobilizing themselves through digital channels. And that is going to affect the turnout. There's no doubt that people will turn out. I expect that there will be the turnout will be greater in 2023 than ever before.
Just a moment, Jimmy.
Yes.
Also, if you would listen to our review guest the other time, was saying that while it is significant what you have said,
Yes.
the people who have hitherto been a researcher
Yeah.
determined the outcome of the elections are not on social media, don't
Yes.
have digital devices and all of those things.
Yes.
So I'm wondering what your take is on that. That
Yeah.
most of the people who determine the outcomes, their interests are different.
There are other modes of mobilization. Parties mobilize, candidates mobilize. If you're a candidate, you want people to come out and vote for you. So there are other channels of mobilization. The additional and improved digital channel is going to make mobilization turnout to be a lot larger. And the calmness, if people are not scared of you, they don't think that if they get to the polling booth, they are going to run into hoodlums, or there will be violence or gunshots. They will come out and vote. And apart from that, there's a lot of dissatisfaction with governance in Nigeria today. People want change of a better, a government that focuses on their problems. Everything is not working. The people are getting poorer. There's nothing that we need. People think that a new government will change this. There's that hope eternal, that a new government, not necessarily a new party, but they're thinking that once there's a change of government, there's the likelihood that new policies, new programs, new projects will begin, and their lots will increase.
What is it, Prof, that we seem to gloss over or miss? Because when you speak about change or hope eternal, right from 1999, whenever it's 4 years, there's that enthusiasm, they're upbeat, they want to go in and get something different. People love the different things, really. But at the end of the day, after 4 or 8 years, there's always that despair that this is not what we thought it was going to be. What are we missing?
I hope you know that in the past, people have not obviously been allowed to express themselves properly. I'm not even sure that we have had any elections where the electorate actually chose. There's been so much manipulation, what we call rigging of elections, that we don't know whether it's the people that we wanted that got there. Well, we just got people elected. And apart from that, our political culture is still on the side of almost feudalism, aristocracy, autocracy, in which the president, the governor becomes an emperor. You have a constitution that gives all the power to the president and the governors. And the power corrupts, they say. Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. So the governors do what they like. Governors control the treasury of the state. The president can appoint anybody, can spend any amount he wants, irrespective of even the budget. So it is leadership.
And National Assembly cannot seem to do anything about it
because they are also part of the cabal.
That speaks to me
Yes.
for the challenge of institutions over individuals.
Yeah, yeah.
The laws are strong and well. The laws are there,
Yes.
and seems to be very detailed and clear about
Yes.
some of the approach to some of these things. So if the laws are there and the institutions are there and the individuals are as strong as they are over the institutions, doesn't that in a way taper to what Chamberlain is talking about, what we're missing?
You see, there's certain areas of Nigerian discourse that is not controversial. Our institutions have not been allowed to work. You know, it's so much, I think maybe Socrates or Aristotle, where there's no law, there's no sin. But in this case, where there's no implementation of the law, we have laws, but the laws are not followed. They are not, because the individuals override the laws. The governors override the laws. The rich override the laws. The powerful, even the violent hoodlum overrides the law.
Does that make the system helpless?
Well, right now, what we are looking for is strategic leadership. Somebody who will see the totality of these problems and create policies and programs that will resolve them. We have not had that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll build a little further subsequently on when you spoke about how things got awry, maybe from time, maybe 1999, recent history till now. But let's get to Abuja. Mark has got some questions for you as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Chamberlain, and good morning, Prof. First, I was going to ask if there is a term in political science for when the electorate begins to seek change at the end of the administration of any government, as the case might be. You said that it could be a change of government, it could be a change of party, but generally, you know, people seek a change. Yes. Is that a phenomenon in political science?
Yes, well, it is. You know, I mean, parties do change their programs in response to the demand of the electorate. If you want to win elections, you have to listen to the voice of the people that you are going to vote for you. And that might affect the way you present yourself, might affect the programs that you prioritize, and so on. If it's a different party, yes, they will almost invariably sell themselves as bringing new ideas, better ideas, and they will want to do a better job because they know the next election round they will have something to explain. So there's no point at which a government cannot begin to change. My worry is that sometimes it's too late to change.
I was going to ask you if you would be kind enough to do like an analysis of the strengths of, say, the who you considered 4 major front runners. We know the PDP, we know the APC, but you know, you decide the last 2 political parties whom you might consider, you know, major contenders in this.
Well, we have 3 leading candidates. The Labour Party is the third force. The 2 major candidates are APC and PDP. They have been there since 1999. They have the structures and so on. Let me say that the Labour Party, exciting as it is unlikely to go very far in the presidential race. Because we are not even talking about Labour Party at senatorial. There is no Labour Party at House of Assembly, they have no governor, they have no local government council. Those are the elements of manipulation, of mobilization, of administration of elections. So if you don't have all those levels, those structures, they call it structures, and I know that people have been gloating about what happened in Kenya. It's not easy for it to happen that way. You need to have the governors to be on your side. You have to have 2 or 3 who can bankroll your election. You have to have local government chairmen and so on. I think it's a federal momentum that they have. As we put it, it is there in the air. I'm not sure that it's grounded in the grassroots. Between Atiku and Tinubu, I see a problem. Ordinarily, those two should not be the people who want to rule us, but they are the ones who emerge from the democratic process. And if you are asking me to assess their prospects, Tinubu has an albatross. The albatross is that he cannot criticize government. He cannot say, I'm going to change policies. He cannot say, the policies I'm going to pursue is going to be better than, because he's going to alienate the president, alienate the cabal, alienate the powerful people in his party, and jeopardize his electoral chances. So what is he going to say to us? Atiku's campaign has no identity. Unfortunately, it has no identity that can galvanize us. It's the same, I will change electricity, I will privatize NNPC. We have found that before. What is it that you are going to do for us? So, but if you want me to balance it, I think that Atiku has the best of the chances. Why? Because politics in Nigeria is not about ideology. I can see him mobilizing the votes in the north. Blood is thicker than water. I can see him succeeding fairly in the southeast, which is a PDP territory. I don't see Tinubu doing that. If Atiku should take the north over and above Tinubu and take the southeast, and even struggle to take some of the southwest, that's the danger. And I don't trust that a lot of the people who are now claiming to be supporters in the north will not go back to your tent, O Israel. So that's why the chances of Tinubu are slightly less than that of Atiku.
I'm looking at some of the analysis that the papers have done this morning. I do not know if you have seen it as well. I think it was leadership newspapers that had that particular headline, something along the lines of Nigerians seek competence above party, religious, ethnic considerations. As a political scientist, what's your first reading of that particular headline? Well,
that's it. That's what we want. There's no dispute. There are many things in which we do not dispute. That's why Peter Obi is attractive. That's why I see him as a good motivational speaker who has been able to mobilize us to say, this is how government should be run, and this is how I want to run it. But at the same time, it's in we are dealing with a democracy. We are dealing with theory and practice of democracy. In a democracy, you have to have structures to mobilize people to go and vote for you. On the election day, you will need about 5 or 6 people who will be your agents, your observers, your this thing. You have to pay for it. What you find that if you are a weak party, people are going to buy up your agents and they will look the other way or walk away from the polling booth. So we definitely have used the word strategic leadership. That's what we are looking for. Somebody who will propel us into the second, second world, not first world. We can't get there immediately. We thought we were going to get there because Okojo-Iweala told us that if they are persistent with the policies of Obasanjo, we would have been in the second world, one of the 10 leading economies in the world in 10 years. But we aborted that. We didn't continue with the policies. We took all the money from the reserves, and so we are back to square one. We are even owing more than we were owing in 1999. So we need that kind of leadership. And so when people say that's what Nigerians want, we will not want that. That's what we want.
But Prof,
how do we get it?
Can we afford to underrate the candidature of the NNPP, Kwankwaso? Because, I mean, if he, as they say, they will go the whole hog, they're not aligning with anybody. Because in the last governorship elections, he held his own, his party. His candidate actually, they took the election to a second ballot between his candidate, who many considered an underdog at the time, and the incumbent governor, who they actually say he won, but eventually second ballot, the governor swung, but it wasn't easy. And now he's from there. So, and given the way they vote, because you have many people who will tell you, what determines victory at elections, they are not those kind of things that you see and you can easily say this is what's going to happen.
Yes.
So, with his candidature, it could be a different dynamics up north, because if he holds sway in Kano and then wins several other positions or several other votes across the board, what happens?
If he wins in Kano, so Kano is not Nigeria.
It's all if for all of them at this point. For all of them.
For Tinubu and Atiku.
It's still a big if for both of them.
It's not if at all. It is, the probability is high that either of them will win. But when you talk about Obi and Kwankwaso, they are talking of people who are building new structures. As parties that have been there for 23 years, that have standing structures. So Kwankwaso can mobilize a lot in Kano. And don't forget that Shekarau, who is also a mobilizer in Kano, has moved away from him to... so he has to share Kano with APC and with PDP, with Shekarau and Ganduje. So if he wins 1/3, even let's say win 50% of Kano, where is he going to win again? I mean, the people are sitting there, the governors are waiting for you as a candidate. They are the ones who manipulate the system. The chairmen of local governments are keeping their allocation for the month or two.
But the interesting thing about that is when they say the governors, they may control the party structure and things like that. But how do we throw in the biometric voting system of INEC into this equation? They all have one vote. So if that system, as INEC has said it, is as straightforward as many say it is, there's a limit to manipulations from those guys.
Well, unfortunately, INEC may be able to do a lot of theoretical things. But you see...
Theoretical,
biomedical, and all this. But you see, the practical thing, I'm talking from some experience of having participated in several elections. I'm praying that Nigeria will change to the point that we will be able to say that this man who we declared as the winner is actually the sources of election rigging is not at INEC's desk. It is before it gets to INEC. What do you do about biometrics when you have underage children in their millions voting? When you have people who you do not see for religious reasons voting, and you don't know how many of them? What is biometrics? You know, biometrics will work up to a point, but those who are determined to frustrate the system have avenues for doing it. So even when you transmit electronically and all those things, what are you transmitting? It's like the elementary computer statement of garbage in, garbage out. It's what you put in that you get out.
Is it a choice on our part that, what you just mentioned now, which we've heard for many years?
Yes.
Is it a choice to continue to allow this?
No. Has it been substantiated in the first place?
That what?
That there's underage voting, because times that many try to interrogate it, they always met a brick wall.
Well, let's pray that it's not substantiated. But what we see, the pictures we see, a picture says 1,000 words. We have seen it before. We have seen people tampering. We have seen all kinds of things. If you turn your eye away from them, in some areas, riggers are protected by the system. Okay. How many policemen do you have? In any case, if you get your budget to include the police and all those who regulate, you get away with anything. So I'm hoping that we will have, I have a feeling that we'll have a better election. Because part of this calmness and optimistic environment that has been created is that we've seen incumbents lose election in Edo State, in Osun State. That is a good development for us, that the party in power did not rig those elections and INEC did not cooperate to rig the election. Okay. So we are hoping that that will be a national thing, not a local partial commitment.
Talking about parties,
yes.
What's your take on these various levels of internal party wranglings that we have playing here and there.
Yeah.
On the front page of one of the papers this morning, you mentioned about 2 or 3 political parties having internal wranglings that are quite significant. Only maybe just 2 of them are as prominent as they are, the APC, the PDP, and the rest of them. But what's your take on that, and how is that likely to affect the entire process in the build-up?
Not the entire process. It will affect the party that is not putting its act together. Let me say something that is a usual thing. Parties get into these altercations immediately after primaries, because everybody has come with ambitions. You want to be governor. If you notice, people are shifting from one party. Once they don't get what they want, they think they will move. They will go from PDP and become governorship candidate in Labour Party, or ADP, or some other party. There's always that tension because people struggle for these positions, and they struggle because they are thinking only of the rewards. They're not going to serve. Oh, that's all. And the rewards
so the winner takes all still plays a huge
role. They know it's winner take all. If they don't win, then even within their party, the winner will not recognize their supporters. So they fight to the end.
We'll explore that a little bit more. And even though you're not so optimistic about the voting system, but we'll attempt to take a further look at that and perhaps underscore or highlight some other expectations from that system when we return in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. We are with Professor Femi Otunbanjo, who is a political scientist. He's a public policy analyst, and he is also a professor of international politics and security studies, Nigerian Institute of International Affairs in Lagos. Prof, when you say that there isn't that much tension, it appears calm, and then some suggest that, wait a minute, couldn't that be because the last elections, you had retired generals who were angling, trying to get a particular position. So they didn't have the culture or the tenets of democracy per se. So they didn't understand all of those democratic tenets and ethos. It wasn't part of them. So that may have contributed largely. But now you have, they're not generals, as it were, politicians. So they seem to be playing the game. Could that count for anything?
Yes, it does. As I keep saying, it's a multifactorial thing. We will know that there was also regional tension when Buhari was coming in. There was some suggestion of this Evilocon syndrome. That was the turn of the North to produce power, and Jonathan insisted on running. So that already created that tension that was bigger than just the campaign. It was a regional preparation for war. We have to have power. The North has been out for too long, we have suffered for too long, so we need it now. So, and of course, the second term of Buhari, also, like you said, the general does not want to lose an election. And so there's that determination. And Atiku, a civilian general in his own right in election matters, was also there. And we don't know what happened. But the truth of the matter, we don't have the same scenario now. We have seasoned politicians, and we pray that the generals will not come back, so that we can move to civilian politics.
But don't we have a typology of this tension you speak about, it's my turn, in different political parties today?
Yes.
Don't we have it?
We have tension, but they do not amount to a national threat. That's the point.
It's just within the party.
It's just within the party, within the region, and so on. And once they have, if you go through the states, once you have finished their primaries, or the conventions, the winner settles down to reconcile with the other people.
Prof, I'd like you to analyze something for us. You've spoken about strong individuals in the political parties. You've spoken about strong individuals in the polity all over the place. I'd like you to, if possible, or if you can, dig deep into the structures that are supposed to hold political parties the institutions that are supposed to hold political parties as opposed to the individuals.
Yes.
Many would reference the U.S. Democrats and Republicans, and they will not be able to reference one individual, but they will reference the parties and the structures that hold it.
Yes.
And, you know, perhaps such examples all over the place. So,
except until recently, maybe Mr. Trump.
Yeah,
well, Trump is an exception to the rule, so to speak. But what's your, how do we get back to that? There are those who have pointed to the fact that, look, hitherto, in previous, you know, republics, we've had strong political parties as opposed to strong individuals in those political parties, as close as the Third Republic of the 90s.
So, well, you see, the interesting thing was that the leaders of the First Republic were tutored democratically by the people that handed over power to them. And they had a democratic mindset and left and were willing to work with people and to use the best brains. You know that Ahmadu Bello, for example, left almost nothing. Balewa created Victoria Island. He did not have a plot of land in Victoria Island. We now began to monetize politics. And that started with the military. There was so much freedom of stealing. No repercussions. We have in our Senate today at least 12 people who are on trial and who are still sitting in Senate. And so we have lost that structured value system that we even inherited from our first leaders. Our leaders now are the ones who begin the process, who are the catalysts of armed robbery in our governments. And once they do that, the institution is irrelevant. What institution that will stand a governor? If he appoints you as accountant general and you don't release money, he removes you and puts somebody else. He has that power to remove you. Our constitution has given so much power to the executive that actually no control. Even the courts now have said that the EFCC has no right to investigate state governors. That the states should go and establish their own economic crime institutions. If you establish a police economic crime institution in a state, given the power, the resources available to governors, what do you think they will do to it? Undermine the system in their own interest. So we have returned to feudalism. We are just a pseudo-democracy.
Well, many argue in that case. Some had said at the time that if AFCC keeps going after the governors, why can't they go after a president? The presidents, too, are allocated money like states. So why investigate only states? You don't investigate the president.
That's the point.
The president must also be investigated because that's where he should start from, as a matter of fact.
Yes. Well, I would like to think that if you know what is going on with Trump, and there's almost some kind of unwritten law that presidents are immune, even when they lose power. Or else, our ex-presidents should at least tasted EFCC, if not jail.
Oh dear. Yes. We don't know if we sign up for that kind of democracy. We wanted a democracy here. But Prof, now that we've seen the PDP, the APC, internal wranglings among them, 23 days to the elections, are these going to
the beginning of campaigns?
To the campaigns beginning, yes, thank you. Are these going to play any role whatsoever in how they fare ultimately?
Yes, it will, if those conflicts are not resolved. For example, if you take the PDP, I'm just alarmed at the fact that they are quarreling about the chairmanship. Let me tell you something. The PDP has 6 positions that it shares among the zones. The president, vice president, president of Senate, House of Representatives Speaker, national chairman, and the secretary to government. Now, they are telling...
That's when they win elections, right?
Exactly. That's the point I'm trying to make. You see, that is when you win elections. I don't know why they will now want you to leave when you have no president. There's no provision for you to leave for a presidential candidate. What if Atiku loses the election?
No, I thought they said they are building on what he said himself.
Yeah, that's
that if a candidate emerges, I will sacrifice and do everything possible to make sure there's peace.
At the expense of being seen to be arrogant, I think he made an error. It was an error on his part. He did not recognize his own advantages. It is a moral commitment. It is not a legal constitutional obligation. he has no obligation to leave.
So should he then say, okay, look, my hands are up. I made an error. It was an error, but I will not go.
No,
as opposed to say,
he doesn't have to go until, if Atiku wins the election.
But there are those who also
then his position will be untenable because we will now have the he would have taken the share of one zone which he has to relinquish.
But there are those who also list a number of positions in the party.
Yes.
The chairman of the BOT,
Yes.
the national chairman,
Yes.
and a number of other key posts within the political party itself as coming from one region and pretty much, ostracizing the other.
No.
It's informed what Chief Body George said, that, look, it is the right of the South to have to be in position as chairman.
That is if the president comes from the north, not presidential candidate.
But he didn't give that condition.
That is because they are not making the appropriate distinction. We don't have a president yet. The 6 positions in the PDP are for elective positions, the positions, public offices. We don't have it. So if Atiku wins the election from the north, then Ayu will not have any leg to stand. But Atiku is just a candidate. And so those who are asking Ayu to leave are on a weak wicket. They don't have, they are standing on straws.
So what then is
about
the argument? What then is the argument for those? Because they are holding very strongly to it, as you know.
Unfortunately, strongly to the wrong thing. Well, you can hold strongly to the Hitler held on to Nazism and the superiority of the Aryan races. Where did it lead him? You can hold on to, you can have 1 million, you can have 1 trillion people supporting the wrong thing. It doesn't make it right.
But it seems quite, sorry, Chairman, it seems quite significant that the other side is insisting that this happens or else they're going to work against
That is the problem. The question you asked me is, what effect would they have? If they can quickly collect themselves and see the falsehood of their position and reconcile. Why? I mean, Wike is insisting on that. Why?
Okay, well, winding down now, what about the APC themselves?
The APC does not have the same kind of problem. They don't. They had the problem of the vice president, the same fate vice president, but they have simply moved on from that.
Well,
they don't have the same
distractions. It appears that they moved on because you still have people who feel, look, in my constituency, I have 60, 70, 80% Christians.
Yes.
So how am I going to go in and market this? Because already they feel alienated from the emergence of the flag bearers already.
You must operate on the basis of balances. If you are going to deal with 100 people, you will never expect 100 people to be on your side. That's why elections are won on the basis of 50.1%. That constitutes majority. So if you have people who are against you, you are just going to pray, and that has been calculated in the choice. You are going to look at the balance. Where do I get my votes from? How many votes will I lose if I take a Muslim? And would I lose so much vote? I am sure that the votes that APC will lose in the Southwest will be next to nothing on the basis of religion. Because that's not something that we take to heart. And that you will find that in many places. And you will get an advantage in the Northwest as a result of that choice. And maybe in the Northeast. So it is not, you cannot have everybody on your side at any given time. What you want on your side is that you have majority.
On a final note, if I could, is it pedestrian to say or think that whichever way this election goes, the North wins? Because you have a vice presidential candidate of APC from the North, you have a presidential candidate from the North in PDP, you have a vice presidential candidate from the Labour Party, you have a presidential candidate from NNPP in the North.
Yeah, so have you forgotten that there was a time we had presidential candidate, vice presidential candidate, all from the South? Was Jonathan not presidential candidate? Was Oshibajo not? What has that got to do with anything? Let's forget this North-South issue. In the terms of the sharing of public offices, it will always end up like that.
But when we say let's forget about it, but our reality is that...
But don't forget, the North has not won yet. They have not won the presidency yet.
Yeah, I'm saying that whichever way it goes, they will have a huge say in the whole thing.
Yes.
So when we keep saying, let's forget about it. In fact, many have said, remove state of origin from this, remove religion from this. But if you look at our national effigy, if you look at all those things there, it's right there in our faces. But we keep saying, let's forget about it. So are we taking certain steps to make sure we forget about those things?
Yeah, and we are hoping that whoever becomes president will not be regionally focused. He will not be thinking in terms of north-south. We've first seen, even under the military, under Babangida and the rest of them, there were balances, positions were shared. So it's not that we have an aberration now that will be corrected by any new regime.
How confident are you on that on the final note? Because
you
there are those who are still...
You think that if Tinubu becomes president, he will put all Yoruba people in positions?
There are those who also argue for the relevance of the Southeast in all of these. Because
let me tell you, again, thank you for raising the Southeast. That's why I was worried about Wike's insistence. Wike has been fighting in the party and disrupting the peace of PDP because he lost, because he wanted a Southern presidential candidate.
Southern, not South-South.
No, that's the umbrella of it. Having installed a Northern, having supported the installation of a Northern chairman, believing that because of his mighty resources, he will now swing the president to his side. But you see, if he wants to be fair in terms of equity, we should be fighting for the Southeast. The last president from the PDP was from the South-South. So I don't see that.
I think Atiku at that time said, if we zone into the Southeast, he will step down.
Well, but they didn't.
Before
all
the
of them
primaries
forget about what they say. Sometimes you think that politicians drink a lot of all kinds of things. When they say something today, they say another. Forget about what they say. Forget about them being held by the rules, by the laws, by the Constitution. That's only when you can catch a politician, not his promises. After all, do they promise us that they will do this, do that? Where are we today?
But that's what they're going to be doing.
You ask everybody, are you better off than in 2019? Are you better off than 2015? But what did they tell us that they were going to do? Make us, give us a better country.
So wait, what should determine how we vote in 2023?
Well, quite honestly, to be honest with you, I hope that we can all vote for the young man Obi. I wish we can all vote for him and get strategic leadership. But we will not do that. We will not vote for him. The older people are not likely to, and they are the majority. In spite of the
no, the older people.
In terms of the voting, the people in the rural areas and all, they are not good. They don't know.
No, I think the figures for mine, I stand corrected, though, is between 18 and 34.
Yeah.
Those are not the rural areas.
No, I'm saying that in terms of those who actually go out to vote.
Oh.
Those who have the patience to go out to vote.
Not those who are registered, not the demographic of the registers.
I didn't vote in the last two elections. I have my card. I
think it's a challenge. Let's see if those
so mobilize the people
young
to vote
people
and see whether they can get a new leadership that is thinking of a modern Nigeria, not the old ones who have been coming, who are there for 40, 50 years. You know, some of them cannot even manage a laptop.
I have a feeling young people will say, okay, you people want to try us, right?
Yes.
We're going to show you.
We'll see what happens. We'll see. We'll show you why we're those the highest
that's where we
in that register.
Try to push the young people to get the candidate they want.
Because it's their country.
Because the future is theirs, and they have the right to be the one to elect it. But we are in a democracy. So it is not something that will be given to them. It's something that they have to work for.
A fine place to live. Professor Femi Otobanjo is a public policy analyst, he's a political scientist and a professor of international politics and security studies at Nigeria Institute of International Affairs. Thank you very much indeed, Prof.
Thank you very much.
We're back in a moment. Don't go away.